Hello, everybody, and welcome to another installment of the Powerful Mindset interview series. Today, I have a good friend of mine and business mentor, Nigel. Nigel, welcome to the Power Mindset. I want you to introduce yourself to the people and tell them your story.
Firstly, I want to say a huge thank you, Jeff, because I want to start with something, a message that really is close to my heart, and I just want to say that I'm really genuinely, hugely appreciative of your friendship, and I think that you are an amazing, amazing man. I know, we came together from a mentoring and sort of client perspective, but I think you've genuinely inspired me, Jeff, with your kind of attitude and your mindset. And I think you're an absolute credit to yourself, your family, and any children that enter your program, honestly, are going to have an amazing mentor, someone that's been through, life's ups and downs, but faced all of that with a smile on their face. And, just keep smiling and, moving forward in a positive mindset. So I think you're an absolute inspiration, man. So I just wanted to start with that message and just say, really genuinely proud to know you, and can't wait to meet you properly in Austin in a month's time. That'll be cool.
That'll be fantastic. Thank you for your
I'm
kind words,
looking forward
Nigel.
to that dinner. I'm looking forward to that dinner you promised me, Jeff. I can't wait.
No problem. My pleasure. My pleasure. So, Nigel, tell us about yourself. Tell us your story.
Okay. How far do you want me to go back, Jeff? What do you want me to? How far? Where do you want me to start, man?
Whatever you feel is relevant to the people.
Um, Okay, okay. I'll give you a very quick sort of brief overview. So I started out growing up on like a council estate in England in a place called Leicester. And the mindset was work all day, to pay the bills. And we didn't own our own home or anything like that. We kind of grew up in, really quite poor conditions, not really having a lot of money and things. Um, and then I didn't really value education as a child. School was like a frustration. It was a place to go and kind of, feel silly and behind. And that's kind of how it was for me. I wasn't a standout student. In fact, I was the naughty one because I couldn't read and write properly. I always struggled with the educational side of things, that kind of constricted environment. It's funny how I ended up being a teacher and an educator, isn't it? But yeah. There's a bit of a mindset for you. But I think really for me, life really changed when I joined the RAF. I joined the RAF way back in 2007, and it culminated in me going to Afghanistan in 2009. And the kind of that I talk about this like frame of reference. Before the RAF, I felt like I was walking around with the blinkers on, and then I kind of came back from Afghanistan and the blinkers were off, and I felt like I was seeing the world through a completely different lens. And that led me to having, some quite sort of dark moments where I started to contemplate what I wanted to achieve in life and what I wanted to actually do with myself. And I went to a conference because I'm a football coach here in the UK, and I went to a conference down at St George's Park, which is like the national team sort of home stadium. And this lady, Australian lady, was given a talk, and she asked us to draw a stick man. And for each of the limbs, there was a question. And one of the questions she asked me was, "What do I stand for?"
Hmm.
And I remember having absolute fits with that question. Like, what do I stand for? I don't know. And this led me to annoying my roommate quite a lot. He's one of my oldest friends. All night we sat up and we wrote out my name as like an acronym of things that I stand for. Nigel. So it was like nurture, sort of that intelligence, that kind of grit. And then we talk about excellence and then listening. So it was kind of like this. Just they're the sort of core values, the things that I want to achieve in my life. And um, things that I want to kind of help. And that really then changed the way I saw the world. And it took me back to education. And I went back to school, and things just completely changed from there and really spiraled. And I sort of did my GCSEs, and then I did an A-level course, and then I did a 3-year degree in English and psychology. That led me on to teaching practice. And ever since, I've been on this kind of educational journey where it's just taken me from those kind of like living paycheck to paycheck to owning my own home in Turkey. And this culmination of, is really all down to the mindset shifts that have occurred and those barriers that have been removed from my mind that have stopped me from moving forward and seeing obstacles. Now I see, sort of opportunities and, when I see a goal, I just think, well, it's almost like I'm going to do it before I even put the plan in place. You know what I mean? I know I'm going to do this. How do I make it happen? And that's the mindset that I have now when it comes to, yeah, just anything that I really set my mind on. I just know I can achieve it. It's just about the length of time or the way that it needs to be done in order to be completed. Does that make sense, Jeff? Did I just explain that very well or not?
No, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. Um, so my program's about mindset, and you talked about the mindset shift and when it happened to you, where you had to actually reflect on yourself. But mindset has a very wide understanding. How do you define mindset?
I think the educator in me really initially goes back to, Carol Dweck's work on, the sort of growth mindset and the fixed mindset. That's generally my initial thoughts around it. But really, for me, I define a mindset as someone that is a mindset can I go back to predominantly that Carol Dweck thing, but for me, for my mindset is it positive or is it negative,
Mm.
right? Is your mindset allowing you to move forward in your life or is it holding you back? Because a good mindset can really allow you to kind of just constantly step into growth. And a poor mindset will stick you in the mud and even it would hold you back from making progress. And it can even regress you because when you're stuck in the mud and you're not moving towards your goals, your mindset can actually really deteriorate. Your mental health can really deteriorate because you're only seeing the negative thoughts and things that you're not doing as opposed to chasing the things that you want to do. So I've actually seen people move backwards away from their goals and actually become a completely different person because of that mindset of, that sort of lack of willing to kind of step into their power almost and, and chase goals. It can really almost regress you because of the failures of the mind. Is that again? I'm just sort of riffing here, Jeff. Is
Oh,
that is that?
you're doing great. You're doing great. I'm completely with you, and the audience will be as well. So I want you to take our audience into your current role, right? Talk about what your role in the teacher project and what you're currently up to right now. And where does mindset play in your world right now?
Yeah. Well, I mean, initially, the teacher project it became a thing for me because I joined as a client, right? So I was a teacher, absolutely hating working in the classroom, finding it, amazingly restrictive, and I wasn't enjoying it at all. And I found the teacher project that allowed me to kind of join as a client. Really, it changed my life, completely changed my life. It allowed me to really start build a business that allowed me to educate in a way that I saw fit. And I was doing really well on the program and, doing quite well. And, sort of, it transpired that, there was a coaching position and, sort of, I was asked by Carl to jump on a meeting and kind of have a conversation about it. And I became a coach. And when I became a coach in the program, and you can ask Kyle this, I knew I was going to be great at it. I just said to him, I feel like I've got a premonition. When I joined the program, I felt like I was going to become a coach and I was going to be, it just felt like a culmination of all the skills that I'd learned in the past, i.e., sort of numerous roles in management and things like that. And then education, it felt like a collision of all of my previous skills that really just allowed me to use all of the things that I've gained, all of the skills that I've gained to help others. And, my role now, when I became a coach, though, I thought all I would have to do is show people how to overcome tech issues and how to set up systems. But what I realize now, after doing it for sort of best part of sort of 18 months, is really what I have to do is help clients overcome their mindset issues and help them break down the barriers in their mind that stop them from moving forward. Like for an example, we have like a money mindset. So clients will have, run ads for their business. And I was terrible when I first started in the program. I hated spending money without the idea that I was going to make it back. So what happens is you kind of start talking yourself out of ways oh, well, the ads don't work, or, it's all this kind of confirmation bias where you basically start to find reasons not to run ads because you're a little bit worried and a little bit nervous about spending money without the knowledge that you're getting it back. So what I did is I just based myself in the numbers, and I obsessively tracked, and I still do all of my numbers, so I know that when I'm feeling unsure, I can just base my logic on numbers, and then all the emotions removed from it. And that was a way that I overcame it. But a lot of clients I work with are teachers that are quite scared, never had that entrepreneurial lifestyle before. And it's very different from the working in the classroom and, with state governed or academy run schooling systems, money coming in consistently every month. That's a completely different mindset to have. And that's what I know now is the number one thing that I am is a coach that helps people overcome the mindset issues that stops them from achieving their end goal.
I want to expand the conversation a little bit from outside teacher project to general society and our youth as in particular. In terms of mindset, what do you think are the greatest concerns for our kids today?
Well, so it's a massive question, that one, Jeff. I think that one of the things that I think about when I think about my own children, the number one thing that I see in my own children is this kind of lack of ambition, lack of, my daughter, for instance, is the cleverest child I've ever known, ever taught. She's just like straight nines here in the UK, can go to any university she wants. She could do anything she likes, but what she lacks is ambition. She lacks that kind of that drive, that dream of constantly pushing forward and and achieving things. And she has it sometimes, but I often worry that society as a whole is holding people, in a place where, it's kind of teaching them not to chase their dreams, or, we kind of hear it all the time, like the Instagrammers, chase your dreams, don't give up. But really, are we, as a society, are we really trying to allow children to be the best that they can be and constantly move forward? And I think that's kind of down to us to really make sure that every child has an opportunity to really express themselves and chase the dreams that they want. And I wonder if the education system is actually allowing children the opportunity to do that.
It's interesting because I've asked these same series of questions to multiple people, and people see it having the barriers to that same type of growth mindset or attacking your goals. Some relate to education, some relate to social media, some relate to family. I feel it's a combination of the world as we live in, whereas things right now are just so quick, right? I'll tell you a funny story. My daughter, I was changing the channel, and it was taking longer than usual. And you would have thought she had waited for 25 years. Like she was so frustrated, right? And I was telling her a story that, Dee Dee, we used to write letters and send them to to my cousin in Trinidad. She would read it and write me back, and like 3 weeks later I would get it. She's like, "Oh my gosh." But I said, it taught you that patience though, right? Well,
Yeah,
now it's
yeah.
like if they don't want something, they switch the channel. If they don't want something else, they just switch. And that kind of, okay, you got to work through it is a challenge for families and for schools.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's the when we think about like your Facebook ads as well, the average length of a video. I said to a client the other day, um, I said like we could do like a 1 to 2 minute video, and they went, "Oh my God, that's such a long video." 1 to 2 minutes. That's a long video. I mean, 1 to 2 minutes is a long video. Wow. So I think that's the attention span just continues to get shorter and shorter, doesn't it? And especially with social media, so much out there. if they can hold your attention for 20 seconds, then that's a good amount of time, considered a good amount of time for staying on a video nowadays. So yeah, I think that attention span is definitely reducing, I would say.
Are you concerned at all about the mindset of our youth? And when I mean youth, I'm not just talking about in terms of age, but I'm just talking about young at whatever you're achieving, right? So youth in terms of doing something new, even if it's in age, or youth in a marriage, or youth in university. Are you concerned about the mindset with the kind of world that they're facing today?
One of the things that I really subscribe to that theory of Angela Duckworth's book, Grit, this kind of ability to be persistent in the face of adversity. That's the way she defines it. And I love that because nowadays, if we don't have grit and we don't have determination, we don't have the ability to overcome obstacles, then we're never going to actually achieve the things that we want to achieve in life, because no one ever just gives you anything. Nothing is ever just handed to you. And even then, if it is, then if you've not got the right mindset, you'll squander it anyway. So I wonder, certainly when we talk about youth, I immediately start to think about, like, Gen Z. And one of the things out there that is, being shown a lot in studies around the Gen Z is this, kind of the mindset shifts towards, not being as gritty, to say, not being ability to persevere as much. And I wonder if that's the way that society's going. If social media is kind of allowing people more insight into other people's lives, and that's kind of therefore, polarizing people's opinions of what life is and what life should be. Do you know what I mean? And I wonder if that's having a detrimental effect on society, and especially our youth. I wonder if our youth has the ability to be gritty, like, my grandfather would have had to have been, in order to even just be around in everyday society. Everything was gritty back then because life was just so much harder. And now, because you've got everything at your fingertips, I wonder if the ability to be gritty is kind of is on the wane.
Yeah, and one thing that I always get concerned about is in terms of developing a mindset is there's so much coming at kids, right?
Yeah.
There's so much information and perspectives, and the idea of facts and truth have kind of gone out the window now. And trying to establish what your mindset is in this like waterfall of information that's thrown at them, to me, is a particular challenge this generation.
Mm. I would completely agree with that. And I think that I know for myself, it's taken me several failures, lots of failures, in order to identify the way I want to live my life. And that turning point was something that I mentioned, that what do I stand for? Because that was the turning point in my life where I started actually wrote down a set of goals, things that the way I wanted to live my life, developing a mindset, the way you were putting it, these are my core values. Like in a school, they have core values. Do individuals have those core values? Do we live our lives as aligned to the way that we want to live our life, or are we just sort of weather vanes and, being, pulled left and right by other people's opinions, or are we developing our own? And that's something that I would say is certainly something that, children, and that's why I love your program, Jeff, because you're helping children to develop this mindset that's going to stand them in good stead for the rest of their life. And that won't just affect their childhood. That will affect their the way they interact with the world as an adult. And one thing, I saw this amazing study recently, and it was an American study that basically said the difference between the earnings, the potential career earnings of a child that graduates versus a child that doesn't. And the difference was in the region of $1 million, because the non-graduate will end up in, minimum wage sort of jobs, for 40 years, 50 years potentially before they retire. The graduate will go into a much higher paid position and earn much more money for the duration of their working career. And that's easily, the difference is potentially $1 million. And that's just one factor that you can measure your growth. Um, but the non-graduate, do they have the opportunities that the graduate has? Potentially, definitely. There's potential out there, but these having a growth mindset, having a mindset that's going to allow you to interact with the world in a much more positive way is going to benefit you in so many other areas, relationships, goal setting, financial earnings, the way you interact with the whole world. It all comes from your ability to understand and choose a path in life. And that's why I really, agreed to come on this interview today, because I think the work you're doing with children is inspiration completely.
It's interesting because the first thing we do is we define their North Star. The very first thing we do, right? And I define the North Star as a vision for the future, your core values, your short and long-term goals. And it's so interesting how a lot of kids have real difficulty seeing past their right hand. You know what I mean? They can't see that far ahead.
Mm.
And what I found interesting is that when we kind of go through the process and we get it clear in their minds, now we have a chance against the volume of stuff attacking them,
Mm.
right? So they have a way of saying, okay, this is I call it their anchor, right? So when things are like, you're not sure, go back to your anchor, right? Go back to your intentions. And I get concerned sometimes with school, being in the system for 25 years all around the world, is that are they focusing enough on the kids themselves, on what's important to them and what their mindset is, or they're just trying to throw all these concepts and terms at them without letting the kids kind of have the space to understand what's important to them. Are you concerned about our current education system in terms of developing the mindset of our kids?
I would say, I would say certainly in the UK, having been a teacher in the UK, and being told that my teaching is um I remember having a conversation with my deputy manager where she said to me that a deputy head teacher, and she basically told me that my teaching wasn't good enough because the data indicated that my children were regressing, in the sense that at the start of the year there was a bunch of data, at the end of the year they expect me to be at a certain place. And what had happened is a couple of the children had left my class that were greater depth children, and they were, children that came in which were much lower start point. So she was right. The data indicated that, my children had, actually got worse in terms of attainment. But what they've not done is they're not taken into consideration the whole holistic, education of the child. If you asked every one of those kids in that classroom, they'd probably tell you that they love being in my classroom and they'd learned so much, but it wasn't that wasn't taken into consideration. And that's why I love, certainly something like, the KIPP schools in America, when they talk about knowledge is power, and they talk about having report cards for, a child's mindset and, their ability to be gritty, for instance, and all of this stuff. Why don't we measure and report on, as teachers, a child's mindset? Why don't we have a report card for that? All we do at the end of the year is say, well, their maths ability is here, their geography is here. We don't talk about the whole child. And I would say that this is obviously becoming much more prevalent, across society, that we do need to be measuring this. But I would say certainly in the UK, I can't comment on the American system or the Canadian system too much, but certainly in England, we've still got some ground to make up on that.
Yeah, I would say on this side of the pond as well. Some of the things that I see from the kids that not work with, but that I tutor, or kids that I know from my wife's school, um, there's still practices that don't develop the growth mindset. The
Yeah.
word is there, growth mindset somewhere but the actual activities and the system and the structures don't don't facilitate that. But Nigel, I
Yeah.
want to leave you. I know you guys, I want to leave you with this. I want you to have a chance to talk to the world and to give them your advice. What advice do you have for the youth in terms of developing a mindset of success for their future?
It's a big question. It's a big what I think is, and then I just go from, purely from a father's perspective. I read a quote once that said, um, a parent's job is children are like arrows, and a parent's job is to basically give their child as much emphasis and as much energy as they can to fire into the future. So I quite like the idea that speaking to a child is speaking to the future, because the words we give them, the mindset we give them, they're going to use that later on in life, right? Because we know that the things that um, the lessons we teach children, that transpires much later on down the line. And I think that if we actually if we help children develop the right mindsets from an early age, then they've got much more chance of being successful later on in life, because it's not just left a chance that they're going to develop this mindset. So I think that in a world where mindset isn't really taken totally seriously, in a world where there's so many opinions and so many experts giving their opinion on what life should be like and the way they should live their lives, why not help children develop their own thoughts, their own feelings, and their own set of rules to live their life by, which will allow them to kind of interact with the world and filter some of the noise around them. And I think that sort of certainly programs like yours, schooling systems could get much more on board with this and actually teach children the way to regulate and a way to understand and interact with the world that's much more than just a module in secondary school like it is here. They call it citizenship.
Yeah.
They could do so much more with that, and allow children to actually integrate in the world, and sort of interact with the world in a way that's going to benefit them and help them achieve their goals, rather than just tell them that they have to live their life this way. And I think that if we can help children develop that pathway, then not only will they have a better life, but society in general will too.
Nigel, that was brilliant. This half of the year, I'm having my guests speak about mindset. The second half of the year, we're talking about habits. So I'm going to welcome you back. If you would come back at some point, sometime after July, if you want to talk about habits, I would love to have you back.
I would love that. I'm trying to develop the habit of fitness right now, Jeff. I've got a jogger, and I know that we are a result of the habits that we set for ourselves, not the ones that control us that we don't know about. But I'd love to have that conversation, Jeff. You just let me know, and I'll be there.
All right, Nigel, thank you so much for your time. This is a joy and a pleasure as always, and I'll talk to you soon.
You will. Thank you so much, Jeff. Have a great day.